Well, good morning. As we head into the weekend, I want to provide a brief update on the current status of the state with COVID-19. Over the week, we have seen our positive case count stabilize. Today, we are reporting that we have 374 new positive cases, and we have 3,888 negative cases for a daily positivity rate of 8.3%, 15% positivity rate on the average of all of the time, and we have 50% of Iowans who have recovered. Days to double continues to improve. Today it's 18 days, which speaks to the slowing of the spread of the virus, and 93,556 Iowans have now been tested for a per capita rate of 1 in every 34. Unfortunately, 18 Iowans have lost their life to COVID-19. 16 of the 18 are among residents of our long-term care facilities. And as I indicated yesterday, we continue to make testing a priority at our long-term care facilities for both the employees and the residents. And actually, 95% of our facilities have taken advantage of testing their employees and residents, so that we can identify positive cases early and do everything possible to prevent the virus from spreading inside the facilities. Hospitalization rates across the state continue to be stable, and the utilization of ICU beds and ventilators is also decreasing. Finally, this weekend, we will be the first time that we won't be delivering PPEs to counties across the state. I'm pleased to report that the request for PPE have significantly decreased, and that the state stockpile is in good shape. So we're starting to get a lot of the orders that we placed in March, and so our stockpile is in a good place right now. Every day, Iowans continue to make significant changes in their daily lives due to COVID-19, and high school graduation is another one of those big changes. Iowa's class of 2020 had big plans for their last semester of high school. Spring sports season, going to prom, final performances in musicals and concerts, award ceremonies and graduations. But a worldwide pandemic changed all of that. Instead, they're at home finishing final projects online, connecting with classmates virtually, and celebrating their accomplishments without pomp and circumstance that was planned for them. Many of the milestones that mark senior year won't be experienced by the class of 2020, at least not in the way that they expected. High schools and communities across the state are doing their part to make this time special. Of course, the most important milestone of all is graduation. It's kind of unthinkable that the class of 2020 won't get to walk across the stage and receive their diplomas, throw their caps in the air, and celebrate with friends and families after the ceremony. While some schools are hopeful that graduation ceremonies might be possible later this summer, many others are getting creative and finding ways to host graduation ceremonies now in the era of social distancing. Linn-Mar High School in Marion will host graduation ceremonies over the course of 4 days this month, allowing 130 students per day to have their names announced, walk across the stage, and receive their diploma. Students will rotate through in groups of 5 every 15 minutes from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day. Sioux City is going virtual and producing digital commencement exercises for each of its 3 high schools. The ceremonies will include the traditional speeches, music, and conferring of diplomas, with greater focus on photos and details about each graduate. The virtual ceremonies will be broadcast online and on local TV stations, and every student will get a digital copy with their diploma. Ogden High School invited each of their 58 graduates to dress in their caps and gowns and receive their diplomas with their parents. A compilation video is being created for the entire class and will also be released online. Then on what would have been their graduation day, Ogden is hosting a congratulatory parade on Main Street, where the graduates will drive their cars past downtown businesses with windows adorned and posters and photos celebrating the entire class. Finally, the seniors at Louisa Muscatine High School are opting for a drive-in style graduation ceremony and are working on plans to make it a full-scale multimedia event. Regardless of how the class of 2020 chooses to celebrate graduation, what matters most is acknowledging all they've accomplished and anticipating that the best is yet to come. My favorite part of the graduation ceremonies are the speeches by the students who demonstrate such hope and promise for the future. Today, I've asked two outstanding Iowa seniors to join me and talk about what they've experienced in the last 2 months and what it's taught them. First, I will introduce both of them, and then I'll give you a chance to hear from each of them. Jada Wilson is a senior at Glenwood High School. She's a National Merit Finalist, Academic All-State musician, member of the 2019 3A Girls Track State Championship team, and helped coach youth volleyball through the YMCA. Jack Dre is a senior at Dowling Catholic in West Des Moines. He is also a National Merit Finalist, Academic All-State, Iowa Governor's Scholar, graduate of the Youth Leadership Initiative of Greater Des Moines, and a 3-year boys state tennis qualifier. Jada and Jack, thank you for joining me today. Jada, this is probably not how you imagined the end of your senior year. Can you tell us what your experience has been like?
Yeah. Do you want me to just read my speech now?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So 2 months into quarantine, it's still surreal to me that we are experiencing a pandemic at what was supposed to be the peak of our high school careers. I guess it's fitting for our generation, though. For seniors across the nation who were born during the tumultuous time of 9/11 and who were children during the recession of 2008, it only makes sense that we graduate into adulthood during a pandemic. Despite all of these hardships, we have finally reached May of 2020. I know that it's definitely not what any of us expected, and I wish that I had more words of comfort to offer, but I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know when things will return to normal because nobody knows what normal is anymore. The most that I can offer to myself and to you all is the fact that every single person is experiencing the same feelings that we have right now. Every senior lost their spring season. Every athlete missed the last time they laced up their spikes or cleats, the last time they swung a golf club in their school uniform, or the last time they traveled to a tennis match with their team. Every musician missed their last concert, every individual speech member missed their last state contest, and everyone lost their senior nights for all of these activities. It doesn't change the fact that it's heartbreaking, but you're not alone in what you're feeling. Even our parents, grandparents, teachers, even politicians, the people we've relied on our entire lives for answers, don't know what's going to happen next, which is a big lesson I've learned. No one is 100% sure of what they're doing. When we were little, we thought that our parents knew anything and everything, but I've learned that's not quite true. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I remember thinking that 16 seemed all grown up. Then, when I finally turned 16, I realized that even though I could legally drive, I was definitely still a kid. When I was 16, the seniors seemed so prepared to graduate. That's when I thought, 18 is old. That's when you become a real adult. Now that I'm 18 and we're all graduating, I'm like, is this really what those seniors felt like? Because if they did a heck of a job hiding it. Part of me can't believe that we're all moving on and going to college, but at the same time, I'm more than ready, as I'm sure most of you are. Originally, I had committed to California, Berkeley, but with the current situation, I think I'm going to go to Creighton University in Omaha to study political science. We'll see how long that lasts, since I'm extremely indecisive, but right now I plan to attend law school after I graduate and hopefully become a politician in the future. Thanks.
Thanks, Jada. I appreciate that. And Jack, what has this time been like for you, and what has it taught you?
Just want to say thank you, Governor Reynolds, for inviting me to share my thoughts today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect with the people of Iowa and the class of 2020 in this way during this time of physical separation. As we have all experienced, COVID-19 has not been subtle in the way it has changed life here in Iowa and around the world. My personal experience has been no different. One day, everything seemed normal. The next, my long-awaited spring break trip to Brazil was called off. This setback was quickly followed by the end of the physical school year and then the cancellation of prom and the state mock trial tournament. For me, though, worst of all was the loss of the tennis season I spent all year preparing for. Long story short, like all of my fellow seniors, the end of the senior year has been quite different than I imagined. As a result, it has been easy to fall victim to the feelings of sadness and loss, to dwell on the moments and memories that might have been, and to fear the uncertainty that lies ahead. Yet, this pandemic has taught me the importance of having a good mindset, staying positive, and recognizing my blessings. I've gotten to spend a lot more time with my family, as my parents are working from home and my brother is back from college. I've learned to be thankful for the important things, such as my family's health and safety, and the frontline workers who sacrifice so much to protect us. I'm thankful for all the teachers who selflessly put in extra hours to foster students' passions and learning in these crazy times, and who have somehow still managed to keep me up past midnight writing papers and doing homework. I'm thankful for my friends and my community who have come together to fight this virus, a community that has been able to adapt in amazing ways and even create a semblance of normalcy, such as the drive-through graduation Dowling's putting on later today. So, instead of dwelling on what could have been, I'm choosing to focus on what can be and preparing myself for the future that lies ahead. I'm anxiously awaiting the next step of my education at the University of Notre Dame and preparing for the day we can all be together again to celebrate the accomplishments of so many seniors across Iowa and around the country. I know that no matter what the future brings for the class of 2020, we share this journey, this united experience, and with it, the remarkable ability to grow, adapt, and support one another more deeply than ever before. Thank you. Stay safe.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I'm just so impressed and inspired by each of you. You're well on your way to great things, and I hope that wherever your academic careers lead you over the next few years, that you'll eventually find your way back home to Iowa to build your lives. So again, I just want to say congratulations on your graduation. Thank you for joining us today and speaking to seniors all across the state of Iowa, and we wish you the very best of things to come. So thanks, Jada and Jack, and good luck. Another time-honored graduation tradition is a keynote commencement address from someone who can inspire greatness in our graduates. Today I want to share just a brief but powerful message for the class of 2020 from a native Iowan and American astronaut, Peggy Whitson.
Hi, I'm astronaut Peggy Whitson, and I have just a few words of advice for the graduating high school seniors from Iowa. Take the challenge to live a little bit outside what's comfortable. You'll find that you're capable of so much more than you even recognize. I know I did. Good luck.
So although the last couple of months have been unusual and challenging for us all, we haven't lost sight of the impact it's had on our Iowa senior class, bringing your high school experience to a very unique and abrupt ending. But Iowa's high school seniors won't be defined by what wasn't. I believe that you'll be recognized instead for your resilience in the face of adversity and your tenacity to navigate through even the most unlikely circumstances. And those qualities will get you far in life. For Iowa's 35,000 high school seniors, now is the time to look ahead. You've gained a lot of knowledge through your school years, but sometimes life is the best teacher of all. In the last 2 months, you've learned that things don't always go as planned. You've been disappointed, but you've gained perspective. You've learned patience and perseverance, and you understand now what's essential and how to go without what's not. My hope is that you've also clearly seen what matters most in your life, your health, your spirit, and the people you love. Life's biggest and best experiences await you. So take that next step, set your sights on a new goal, help each other move forward, because while the world has changed, it will soon fall upon you to change the world. Congratulations and all the best for a bright and prosperous future. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
Rod Gazette, go ahead.
Thank you, Governor. First, can we get an update on the status of your modified quarantine?
Yep.
And then maybe this is for Sarah. The CDC is alerting health officials to be on the lookout for a dangerous inflammatory syndrome in children that could be linked to coronavirus infection. I think they're calling it the pediatric multi-system inflammatory syndrome.
Yep.
And it's shown up in at least 19 states. Have you received any reports of children in Iowa being affected by this syndrome? And if so, what steps are being taken to address it?
I'll let Sarah answer the last question, and I don't believe we have, but I'll let her. I know the team is working on it and looking at it. So I'm on day 5 of negative test. I continue to take my temperature in the morning throughout the day, continue to practice social distancing and wearing a mask while in the facility. Also, not only working from the SEOC, but working from home. So we'll continue to be in a modified quarantine for 14 days, which will take me through next Wednesday, I believe. So we continue. I've tested negative every day. As I said, continue to take my temperature morning and throughout the day and in the evening, and then continue to wear a mask and social distance. And I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Rod. We are not aware at this particular point in time of any cases of the inflammatory condition that you're speaking about in children. We are paying close attention to the information that's coming out of the state of New York as well as from the CDC. Dr. Padati routinely has conversations with her colleagues at the CDC as well as other state epidemiologists around the state. And so we're keeping a close eye on the situation, and certainly as we learn more, we'll be sure to share that.
Next question, Ryan, Associated Press.
Thank you. In making your decision on partially reopening the state, are you looking at any models from the University of Iowa or other sources that forecast the number of deaths that may occur with or without specific mitigation strategies in place? And if so, what are they telling you?
Yeah, well, we're taking a look at a lot of different data, and I want to thank the University of Iowa and the Public Health for their input into the process. But, you know, we are able to right now, because of Test Iowa, because of the great work at the State Hygienic Lab and the Department of Public Health, we are really able to look at data in real time. And because of the increased testing capacity that we brought to the state of Iowa, our robust case investigation, we are able to do strategic testing in facilities and communities. We're able to identify very early on where we might see clusters of virus activity in a potential hotspot, which allows us time to get in there and start to implement mitigation efforts or to work with the community to let them know that this could be, that the virus could be increasing. So it's been extremely helpful to have the real-time data that we have, to have the website that we have that allows us to look at the data in different configurations. As I said in my opening statement, we're seeing the positivity rates go down, which is very good. We're seeing the hospitalization numbers continue to stabilize. We're seeing the days to double increase to, I think it's 18 days now. So we've seen some really good results with that as well. And so we're going to continue to look at the data. We're going to continue to assess, and we're going to continue to test. And hopefully we can not only protect the health of Iowans, but also the livelihood and the health of our economy as we move through and really work to contain and manage COVID-19 in the state of Iowa.
We're going to go to Lauren, Channel 5.
Good morning, Governor. You said that you're getting tested every day. Is it the Iowa test that you're taking every day? And if it's not, what's the name of that company that's producing that test for you? And do you know the accuracy of it?
Yeah, so it is with the Abbott machine. We are using the NP swab, which is the better swab, so we are using that. But in addition to that, so that is what I'm getting tested with every day, and I know there's been some information released recently through the FDA about the percentage of accuracy with the Abbott machines. But I'm also, in addition to that, you know, as well as getting tested, I'm exhibiting no symptoms. I continue to social distance. I continue to wear a mask when I'm not doing a press conference and continue to work from home when I can. So we're a little over 1 week into the first incubation week, and then we got another week to go, and so hopefully we'll continue to test negative and continue to feel good and be past the 2-week incubation period by next Wednesday.
Ian, Des Moines Register.
Thank you, Governor.
Yep.
More restrictions on businesses are lifting today. If virus activity doesn't decrease and there would be a resurgence, like some experts are concerned about,
Yep.
What would be your threshold for deciding we need to put restrictions back in place? And
Well,
what would be the plan for handling the
Yeah,
resurgence?
so what we've watched all along, and again, as I've indicated with the data that we are able to collect in real time and the extensive testing and case investigation that we're able to do right now, it really does allow us to look at the state holistically, to look at it from a state perspective, county, community. We now have the capability with the information that we're getting actually to look at it from from a zip code, so we really can drill down and watch the activity that's happening in the state. So again, the goal was to make sure that we protected the health of Iowans, that we managed our healthcare resources so that we, so to work to flatten the curve and not overwhelm our healthcare systems, the hospitals. And so that's what we'll continue to watch to make sure that they have the capacity to not only treat individuals with that have tested positive for COVID that might need hospitalization, but that they can also take care of other Iowans that would meet that need as well. And, we have done that. We're able to demonstrate that on a daily basis. We've continued, in fact, yesterday we also saw utilization of vents and ICU beds go down, so we can monitor that very carefully. And if we see a significant surge and we need to take additional steps, we'll do that. But, the goal is to, again, make sure that Iowans are safe, make sure that they're practicing social distancing. We're still limiting social gatherings to 10 or a little fewer. If you go out in public and you can't social distance, you should have, a face covering with you so that you can put that on. Just in, if you can't, practice the 6 feet separation. And again, with every one of the declarations, we have said that if you are an older adult and you are an individual who has significant underlying conditions, that you should still remain home, limit your trips to essential trips when you go out in public. You should be conscientious of your surroundings and make sure that you have a face covering. So again, 80% of Iowans will have mild to no symptoms at all, and we're seeing that reflected in the testing with asymptomatic individuals being tested positive. But it's the 20%, the most vulnerable, and those with underlying conditions that we really need to focus on and need to continue to stay at home and be very conscientious of their when they're out in public.
Monica, Channel 13.
Thank you, Governor. Two-part question. The first one is really a quick one. When you say 1 in 34 Iowans have been tested, does that account for people who were tested more than once? And my second question is, we've been talking with a lot of restaurant owners who have questions about law enforcement and how much they're monitoring, that they're adhering to the guidelines and rules. Is there a timetable for how long law enforcement will be monitoring these restaurants? Or are you offering additional guidance on that?
Yeah. So the 1 in 34, they have been, they're deduplicated. So those are actual individuals that have been tested. They've removed the, if anybody that's been tested twice. So that's not included in that number. So really with the restaurants, that'll be monitored through the regulatory, through the Department of Inspection and Appeals like they always have. But even with law enforcement, the approach that they've taken is to educate, make sure that they understand what the parameters are, and they're not in there to try to write them a ticket or to really, they're just to educate and help remind them what they're supposed to be doing. And then I would just refer to, the Restaurant Association has put together phenomenal guidance for their members, as well as the Department of Public Health has guidance on coronavirus.iowa.org. Gov, I keep saying org. I'm going to get that, I promise. Before we're done with these, I'm going to get that done. So there's another opportunity for you to take a look at the guidance if they have any questions, and then they're welcome to follow up with 211 or with our office if they have additional questions.
Chris, KCCI.
Hi, good morning, Governor. Right now, there's a pretty big outbreak at South County Jail. A couple of weeks back, there had been talk from first responder unions about, if, God forbid, there were police, firefighter, whatever, who were to get this and die, they want it to be treated as a line of duty disease. Where is the state on doing that? Is that something you would support?
So I don't know if you're referring to, well, first of all, I want to just, for our first responders, I want to just thank them and let them know how grateful we are for what they do day in and day out to stand on the front line to serve Iowans and to protect Iowans. So I believe this is a request that's been made to our legal counsel, and they have spent a great deal of time looking into it. It's a complicated legal issue. I've tried to be very restrained in my approach in suspending statute. So there has been a couple of times where I have done that, but I've tried to be very restrained in my approach in doing that. And so I think with this in particular, that is something that should be addressed by the state legislature. They will be coming back at June 2nd, and so we'll have an opportunity if they decide to address that issue then.
Next question, Eric, Waverly News.
Hi, Governor. Just wanted, first of all, before I ask my question, I want to commend those two young people for giving their speeches today. But now to my questions, I got two-parter. First of all, about testing here in Iowa.
Yep.
You said that with the verification, you can do about 3,000 tests a day. But when would it be possible that you could do more random testing? And then also, President Trump had said yesterday they considers testing to be overrated. What are your feelings about that?
Well, first of all, we are going to continue to test, and I think that that's important. It's been important for us to do for our manufacturing, for our processing plants, for our long-term care facilities. We've really led with doing the surveillance testing that we've made available. We're now talking to other businesses and chambers and first responders, essential workforce, to make sure that we can provide them the testing so that we know if they are positive, that we can get them isolated, get them on a path to recovery, identify those that are negative so that they have some confidence and comfort in going back into work and working in a safe environment. I believe, and I think, they have said from the administration, and you'll hear this from governors all across the country, that the ability to test, especially with the robust case investigation that we've been able to put in place, that really is helpful in allowing us to start to open up the economy and to make sure that we're doing it in a responsible and safe manner. It also allows us, like the strategic proactive testing that we're doing in some of these facilities, in some of these communities, it allows us to see quickly if we're seeing some kind of a hot spot or a potential cluster of virus activity that we can get in front of. And the other piece of this that's really helpful, and it's how we'll continue to manage this moving forward, I don't know if a lot of states are doing this, is the assessment that that Test Iowa provides. And so by Iowans going on and taking the assessment, that's another way that we can identify early on where there's a potential cluster or hotspot of or increased virus activity. So that's a really significant piece of what we're able to provide Iowans as we, move through the COVID-19 pandemic, and we make sure that we're protecting Iowans while, opening up in a safe and a responsible manner.
We're going to take two more questions. Aaron, Lee News.
Thank you, Governor. I'm wondering if you can just kind of describe the process you go through when the numbers that you're looking at are looking better, and tell you that it may be safe to reopen more of the state's economy versus. Yeah. I assume that there's some sort of risk in that allowing people to move about more freely could risk more new cases. So what is that balancing act, that decision process like for you?
Well, first of all, we never guaranteed that no one would get COVID-19. That was never the goal from the beginning. It's still in our communities, and it's going to be in our communities for a while until we can either figure out a vaccine or we're able to, or it starts to diminish, but people need to continue to do what we've asked them to do. They need to social distance. If you're sick, you need to stay home. You need to limit your gatherings right now to 10 or less. And we can, through the assessments and through the testing and through the information that we're gathering, monitor virus activity. We can look at the positivity rate. We're able to look at the days to double, which also is an indication that we're starting to see a slowing in the spread of the virus. The hospitalization rate will continue to be one of the 8 areas that we continue to monitor and look at. The utilization of vents and ICU beds is another metric that we look at. So we're going to continue to collect a lot of different data points, and we sit down with the team and we think about how we can responsibly and safely reopen. But we need to do that. There is also a cost to locking everybody down. We've seen 191,000 Iowans who are now on unemployment. We are seeing domestic and child abuse cases go up. There's, increases of mental illness. We have more and more Iowans that are experiencing food insecurity. So there is a cost, a social cost, to also locking down and not figuring out a way to responsibly and safely start to open up the economy, get Iowans back to work so that they can take care of themselves and their families.
Last question, Iowa Public Radio.
Thanks, Governor. Looking back at what you've said about the data and metrics that you've said throughout the past weeks that you're basing your decisions on, first it was a 6-region point system, then it was county-level data, and you said you were only reopening places that were trending downward. Now you acknowledge you're reopening all counties in spite of increasing virus activity, and now you're saying it's about the number of ventilators and ICU beds. How can you assure Iowans who might be confused about all that you're really basing your decisions about reopening on data that will best protect their health?
Well, I think I've been very clear that we've looked at it from a 3-phased approach. Stabilization. So we started there because we didn't know from early reports how many Iowans would get COVID-19, the severity of it, how many would be hospitalized, and we really didn't know for sure the capacity of our hospital systems to deal with a unknown pandemic. And so in the stabilization phase, the goal was to protect the health of Iowans, to manage our healthcare resources, to flatten the curve and not overwhelm the healthcare systems. So we put mitigation efforts in place to do exactly that. And those targeted mitigation efforts, because remember, throughout this all, nearly 80% of Iowans remained working and in the workforce, and our businesses were going because they were essential businesses. So the time that bought us with the targeted mitigation efforts allowed us to understand the number of vents and the number of hospital beds, ICUs that we had statewide and within the 6 regions. And we have demonstrated on a daily basis as we moved from mitigation to containing and managing that we have sufficient resources to not overwhelm our hospital systems and to make sure that we could we still had the capacity in case we did see some type of a surge. So we're able to monitor the data and demonstrate that we've met that criteria. So now, as we begin to manage and contain virus activity with testing, with robust case investigation and contact tracing, by working with our facilities and with Iowans, we are able to collect the data and monitor virus activity. We are seeing our hospitalizations stabilize. We're seeing our positivity rate go down. We are seeing the number of cases start to decline, and we can watch that. Even where we're seeing some areas of increased activity, if you look at it, most of the times it's because we've proactively and strategically gone into that area to do some very aggressive testing based on maybe a long-term care facility or a manufacturing or a processing plant. So, it changes daily. We learn more daily. We're gathering more information on a daily basis so that we can make the decisions to continue to reopen Iowa to get not only to bring our economy back, but to make sure that we're doing it in a safe and responsible way. So thank you for the question. We're going to continue to monitor this very carefully. And again, I have confidence in Iowans and our businesses. They are being very thoughtful and responsible when they bring their businesses back online. We're seeing it. Our businesses that have had the chance to come on and talk to Iowans have certainly seen that too. So keep doing the great things that you're doing, Iowans, and we're going to keep Iowa moving forward. So thank you very much.